Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. Um, Today, we're going to talk about watch legacies and heritage and reputation and the like. But before I start on that, I wanted to touch on last week's episode about snobbery in watches, and I must have touched a nerve because, hey, elusive man, how you doing, my friend? But I must have touched a nerve because normally I get the kind of passionate aggression when I talk about things like fake watches. But I didn't expect, hey, Chris, how you doing, my friend? And normally I get, oh, you'd be surprised the kind of aggressive comments I get about fake watches. But I didn't expect to get a lot of pushback on talking about snobbishness. And yet I got a lot of heat from several people. I mean, it's not like a jillion people, but like three, five people were really, really aggressive about it. And I don't talk about private individuals, but one of the people who was very aggressive about it um, was a another watch channel, Ristopia. So I said, hey, I'm going to talk about it, and their comments tonight because Ristopia is another channel in this watch collecting network. And they were, I mean, and they weren't the only ones. Like I said, like three, five people were on the comments. And I mean, we're not talking like comments. We're talking hammer and tongs. We're talking five, six paragraphs worth of writing. And they were really upset that I even brought up the concept of watch snobbery. They're like, watch snobs don't exist. Deal with it and all. I mean, and their rhetoric kind of betrayed their position because the only people who talk about absolutes are people who have no flexibility. And I actually checked out the Ristopia channel, and it's not a bad channel. They get a lot of good stuff. And frankly, they do more in the review area than I do currently. But as I've always pointed out, I'm just a watch collector and a hobbyist, and I just journalize my hobby because I mean, this is just a hobby, but it's a hobby that I'm very passionate about. And I was really surprised to get pushback on the concept of snobbery, but it actually ties into the concept of addressing fakes. And it also has to do with the topic of tonight's live stream, heritage, legacy, and reputation in watches. Because, I mean, as I've always said, the more you know about watches, the better you can appreciate everyone's watch. Elusive man, what did I miss? Oh, I did see the episode afterwards. A lot of snobs out there for sure. Hey, Warren, how's it going? Elusive man, the Sith only deal in absolutes. Yams Project, how am I doing? Glad to see you, Yams. And Miranda, hey, Miranda. You know, yeah, like I said, I was just very surprised. And methinks the gentleman protesteth too much. You know what I mean? Because to be that upset about a topic, to go into, I mean, we're talking 10 comments easy of multiple paragraphs. And not just, like I said, there were like three, five people up there really aggressively against me for bringing up even the concept. I mean, I was literally told the concept of watch snobs is nasty. Really? Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I'm an oversensitive dillwad or something. And there's no such thing as a watch snob. These are all people just trying to enlighten you with their experience. But snobs exist, and watch snobs exist. And I'm going to continue to call out watch snobs, and I'm going to continue to be against fake watches. But that's me. I'm just a collector. I'm not any magical watch arbiter. But the fact is, there are people out there who make the game less fun for others. And I'll let you fill in the blanks as you see fit. Or if you have any comments, I answer all the comments. I've answered every single comment from every single one of these people. This Ristery guy, I mean, like I said, his channel's not bad, but looking at his channel, I'm surprised he's so vehemently defensive of watch snobbery. But I'll leave it at that. And let's move on to the aspect of legacy and reputation and the like, because I mean, frankly, they are tied together because part of watch collecting is recognizing, researching, addressing legacy, heritage, and reputation, right? I mean, because that's part of the value of a watch, isn't it? Please let me know what your thoughts are on this. I'm like I said, I'm just a guy talking about it, and this is a community, as I have said many times in previous episodes, and it's this interaction that makes this channel worthwhile to me, at least. Gian, hey Gian, Yams. What was the Patek that Harvey Specter was wearing in the suits? That's cute. Chris, in luxury, there are always snobs in sight. Exactly. Hey, Mr. Donut, a watch snob is being ignorant and naive. Well, or being narrowly informed. Sometimes a person fixates on some things and it imbalances their perspective. Maybe I'm not going to be negative and like I don't want to crap on anybody, but I do want to bring this conversation to the forefront and let's discuss it as a group, because when individuals yell at me and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm like, I'm not the only one, you know? So I would really appreciate your insights on this. Warren, watch snobs telling on themselves. Well, when someone says there are no watch snobs, deal with it, their rhetoric betrays themselves. I mean, that was literally one of the comments that I got. Watch snobs don't exist, deal with it. And that's an absolutist statement. The moment you start talking in absolutes, you're on shaky ground. Elusive man, I think you're right. Just enjoy your journey, man. Who cares about others? Well, normally I tell everyone, do your watch, do it for yourself, don't care. But I mean, it is a channel. I do have a channel. Oh, and I passed 8,000 subscribers this week. Hey. And I answer every comment that comes in. I literally answer every comment. And even the ones that I don't agree with, but and then I explain why I don't agree. And I try to talk it out. And I recognize that I'm not going to probably change their minds. But at the minimum, I set my standards and I stick true to them. Mr. Donut, I feel like legacy and reputation has two separate conversations within each brand. Well, that was you beat me to the point, Mr. Donut. That was one of the things that I was going to open that aspect of the presentation with. Yeah, I think it was 5004p. But oh yeah, I guess he's answering the Patek question that was earlier in the thread. I love it when we're really hot and heavy, 10 minutes in. It's great. Oh, by the way, wristwatch check. I'm wearing my Jaeger-LeCoultre Polaris Chrono. Speaking of watch snobbery, I posted a picture of a Squadra, a double time zone, a GMT JLC Squadra I managed to come across in Munich at the watch Borsa, the Uhrenbörse, the watch market. It's right in the Victualian Markt in Munich. It's a really nice watch store, and they have all of their watches in a really big glass window with little boxes so that you can actually see their entire on-hand inventory without having to go into the store. And Squadra, yeah. So I did a short. You probably saw the short, maybe, hopefully. If not, go look for the short. And I said the JLC, and someone's like, "Ha ha, you don't know how to pronounce the name." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know how to say Jaeger-LeCoultre, but I wasn't thinking it at the time. I just said JLC because I'm doing a short. I'm trying to be quick and concise in my comments." But they were hard. They literally, that was the only comment. They leaped on my presumed lack of ability to pronounce Jaeger-LeCoultre. And Ich kann aber sehr flüssig Deutsch sprechen. Und wenn ich will einen arroganter Arschloch sein, könnte ich sagen, dass, ja, wie viel Sprache kennst du? I was just saying, I speak fluent German, so if I wanted to be a snob, I could be a snob. How many languages does that guy speak that says I don't know how to pronounce Je les côtes or Jaeger les Coutres or whatever? I mean, but actually, it's Je les côtes. My name is Pault. My last name is the same phonetics as Lecote because Pault is my name is Paultre, but you don't pronounce the re. It's Pault. So the fact that my name is pronounced the same as Cote, and I'm being accused by people that I don't know how to pronounce it, I guess that's kind of snobby, isn't it? So I was directly confronted with watch snobbery as someone else is telling me I don't know what I'm talking about because there is no such thing as watch snobbery. So you pay your money, you get your ticket, you take your choices, your mileage may vary. But to go back to Mr. Donut's point, legacy and reputation they're related and separate things because we've talked about this in the past about fit and finish and value and all of that other. There are a lot of things in watch collecting that are interrelated but are separate. And legacy and reputation are two completely different things. The point I was going to bring up is Zinn. Zinn's only been around since 1961, I believe. 60 something. I think 61, because I was born in 61. Pardon me. And I believe we are of the same vintage. Yet Zinn has a fantastic reputation of making fantastic watches, great watches, but they don't have a tremendously long legacy. Some companies, like, well, Jaeger-LeCoultre, the watchmaker's watchmaker. The reason they call Jaeger-LeCoultre the watchmaker's watchmaker is they've made movements for all of the triumvirate, and a bunch of other companies as well. So, yeah, they've earned that both. See, in this case, they're linked. They have a legacy and they have a reputation. You know, Hans Wilsdorf, the founder of Rolex, one of the first things he did, he made sure that the woman who swam across the English Channel wore a Rolex and popularized it to a great extent. And Rolexes have been on the wrist of quite many explorers and people pushing the edges of the envelope on human endeavor. So Rolex has a true heritage and legacy in adventure and sports, but it also has a reputation of being a very good watch, you know, and which links to that whole aspect of fakes, because then the people want that name on the watch, but the watch that has the name on it doesn't have any of the legacy or heritage that earned that name, that value, you know? And when it comes to reputation and legacy, they are intermixed. You can have, well, and because even if you think of Zinn, I mean, 60 years is a healthy period of time. 64 years is a healthy period of time. And over that period, they have a legacy, but you could say it's more of a heritage, but it's at this point is more of a reputation, right? As it gets into triple digit years, then it gets called a legacy, but a legacy is simply an extended reputation over a period of time that reminds people of how much effort went into the product. You know, what are your thoughts? Let's look at some of the comments. Mr. Donut, sorry I beat you. I'm joking. I love you guys. And frankly, the fact that you are all, and I mean, some of you are better collectors than I am. I always tell Chris, who's watching right now, that he's a better collector than I am. He has a passion about watches that I can only respect and honor. I mean, we were together at Dusseldorf Watch Fair last year, and he bought a Sherpa, And I wanted to buy a Sherpa, but I was hesitant to pull the trigger. And now I envy him for the purchase, and I might pick one up next year. Maybe my problem is I need to sell a couple more first. I have too many pieces in my collection. But the Sherpas are awesome pieces. And see, Sherpa is a great example of legacy versus reputation. Sherpa doesn't have any legacy, but they've built a reputation in the few years that they have been out there of being a quality piece. Or, like, for example, a few days ago, I just posted the interview I had with uh, Hanhart. I don't know why I was blanking for a second. Well, I was thinking also of my interview with the Formex CEO, Raphael. He's a cool guy. And for example, Formex, they don't have a deep legacy, but they have a strong reputation. Formex is a perfect example. Hanhart has both a legacy and a reputation. Steve McQueen owned a Hanhart, if you want to go in that direction. But their current pieces are great watches, you know? Legacy and reputation are linked, but they are separate. You're right, Mr. Donut. Um, Elusive man, but I have a channel to express myself in an open forum. I'll always get people who will criticize anyway. Well, I am a publishing professional with over 40 years of experience in magazines. I have always done all of my work is open to the public. Back when I used to write about how to buy a VCR in Overseas Magazine, the leisure magazine for the military man in Europe back in the 80s, to today, uh, being a journalist. I'm not going to, because of the context, I'm not going to name the publications that I work for because I'm not trying to, flex or anything. But I'm a known editor in the embedded electronic space, and everything I do, everything I do in both my public and my private and my personal life has always been open to public criticism. I mean, I have a novel that's out in the marketplace. People could criticize my novel, but it has 4.5 stars on Goodreads, you know. Um, Cyberchild. Everything I've always done has been in the public eye. And that's why I don't mind bringing this topic up, because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Tell me, you know. But it's just my opinion. I'm not saying that I'm the master arbiter of everything. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. I even said to those people that they are entitled to their opinion. I just simply disagree. I mean, it's in my mind, it's just a disagreement. I don't agree with what they disagree with me. I disagree with them, but they're not any worse people for it. They're just people. And actually, um, that channel. See, I almost forgot the name of the channel. I think it's Ristery. Is it again? Ristopia. So, I mean, they have a channel. They're out there. They're open to scrutiny. But I did check their channel out. They got halfway decent stuff. I mean, actually, I shouldn't say that. That's um, damning with faint praise. They actually have a good channel. But frankly, that's one of the reasons I'm surprised they're so adamant about defending snobbery. Maybe they don't see it that way, but that's okay. Like I said, it's their opinion, and I'm not going to damn them for it. I just simply disagree. What are your thoughts? Yams, I see I am a David Bowie fan. Well, behind the camera, on the other, because this curtain is a huge picture window and door to the garden, and on the other side is a picture of Jimi Hendrix, and from the same artist, same style, Jimi Hendrix. So yes, I am a David Bowie fan, but I'm also a Hendrix fan, and I also like Yes. I like Yes. I like a bunch of bands, and I even like. There are some bands that I like just because they're one-hit wonders. Like I saw Nena sing "99 Luftballons" in Kaiserslautern back in 1983, and I respect the hell. I mean, that's a great song. I even heard some of her other stuff, but it's all. I mean, back then. I mean, she's changed as an artist and all of this other. But back then she did a lot of teeny pop, Ich habe heute nicht versäumt, weil ich an dich geträumt. In other words, I didn't waste my day because I was thinking of you, you know. But at that moment, she came out with 99 Luftballons, and it was the soundtrack for the Cold War. And I was a soldier on the East-West German border. I was signals intelligence, listening to the Russians back in the day. And sometimes you're in the right place at the right time. But see, that's to bring it back to the conversation about watches. That's part of heritage, right? You're in the right place at the right time. I mean, because for example, in the case of the Speedmaster, right? If some of the first astronauts didn't personally own Speedmasters, they wouldn't have thought about including them in the. And actually, it inspired the search for an issue watch for the astronauts, and the fact that NASA went through the trouble to get a good mechanical wristwatch to put on the wrist of every astronaut saved the lives of the Apollo 13 astronauts. And famously, in Apollo 11, Neil Armstrong left his watch uh, back as a backup timing piece, and that's why Buzz Aldrin is the one who wore his piece on the moon. You know, heritage and legacy and reputation are intertwined. They are separate things, but they are intertwined, But it all plays into this wonderful game that we're playing of being watch collectors, because in my case, the legacy and the heritage are important aspects of my collecting journey. And they're also watches that I buy just because I like them. I mean, let's think about it. Let's look at both directions. Something that I bought just because I thought it was a cool piece, and something that I bought because of legacy, right? But then again, well, Mont Blanc. Mont Blanc has a legacy in pens, but now it has a reputation for making really good watches. One day they may have a legacy of making good watches, and then, well, or if you think of something like a Tag Heuer, right? Tag Heuer has a tremendous legacy, and it has a reputation. It all it all meshes together. And the key to me is, I've always said in all of my, I mean, and so I'm not, trying to pose or anything. You could go back to episodes I recorded 5 years ago, and I've always said, you got to learn, you've got to explore, you've got to educate yourself about watches. And the more you know, the more you can appreciate, you know? And on the topic of snobbery, the more you know and the more you can appreciate, the less snobbery comes through, because then you can also recognize the value of whatever that other person is wearing on their wrist. That's a bowl. Nice to see you. I don't believe I've seen you before. Nice to have you on the channel. I'm not rich enough for legacy brand prices. I live in the micro brand realm when I don't have to pay for brands marketing. Ah, but there are brands with a tremendous legacy and heritage that don't cost very much, like Hamilton, like Oris, like Mito. All of those brands have tremendous legacies, and they're relatively inexpensive pieces. Or Ball, or Certina. There are a lot of brands out there that have been around for over 100 years making great watches, and they're not spending money on a lot of marketing, so a lot of watch collectors don't know about them. But the heritage and legacy is there. You know, I mean, think of Omega, right? I own two Omegas currently. I've got. I'm sorry, not Omegas. I mean, I do own some Omegas, but I apologize. I had a Freudian slip there or something, because I was thinking of the lunar pilot. So I was thinking Omega, but this is the bull of a lunar pilot. All right. The original bull of a lunar pilot, maybe I can get it to focus if I block my face. The original bull of a lunar pilot went up on the wrist of the commander of Apollo, Scott, Commander Scott, on Apollo 15, and he wore it on the moon. Only private watch ever worn on the moon. And but Bulova has even deeper legacy. The Accutron came out in the mid 50s and was literally government controlled technology until the early 60s, because this went up into space on the Vanguard satellite in 1957, and it didn't appear as a wristwatch until 1960. And the Bulova Accutron Space View has just been reintroduced. Last year at the Dusseldorf Watch Fair, they had a whole big thing, and actually prior to that at the New York Watch Fair, uh, the Accutron's back, the tuning fork watch. You know, talk about a legacy. And yes, the new Accutron is comically expensive, but you could pick up a Bulova lunar pilot for about $500 on the market, and that's a watch with a real legacy. So don't yes, a lot of legacy heritage watches are expensive, but don't conflate legacy with cost, because there are a lot of watches that have real history, and don't cost a lot of money. Mr. Donut, JLC Polaris watches very underrated. I agree. They are very underrated. Um, I like the new World Timer Polaris. I've seen, you know what? The one I I own a Polaris. I owned the three-hander, and I literally sold the three-hander to buy the chrono because I liked the chrono so much. Thinner than a Daytona. But the World Timer doesn't float my boat, weirdly enough, because it's so complex. They put a bar across the face to support the world time rehout, uh, outer bezel, inner outer, what, you know what I mean? There's actually a visible bar across the front of the JLC World Timer, and they could have done it a different way. They probably did it to keep the thinness down, but seeing that bar bugs me. But I do own the chrono. Um, and if that Squadra is still in stock in Munich when I'm back there in November, I'm going to bring some cash and see if I could Presbyterian them down a little bit, and I'll probably pick that one up too. Because Jaeger-LeCoultre makes some fantastic watches. They really do. I mean, just okay. Two things about this I'll bring up real quick. It has micro adjust. It has micro adjust on both sides of the deployant clasp. So most deployant metal bracelets don't have any micro adjust, and this has dual. You can pop it out a millimeter on each side, so you have a lot of flexibility. And that 1,000 hour JLC movement is just so butter. And as I said at the beginning, JLC is the watchmaker's watchmaker. They make some of the best movements on the planet. I just think they could have handled the world timer a little differently. Although it's still, if someone offered it to me at a good price, I would totally buy it. I'm not going to sit on a high horse. I think JLC Polaris was worn by Doctor Strange in the movie. No, he wore a JLC World Time, or I think he wore their perpetual calendar in the movie, or their chrono, but he wore like their ultra slim something. Moon could have been the moon phase chrono. But yeah, he did wear a JLC in the Doctor Strange movie. Um Gian, I'm a snob myself. I snobbed the Longines. Well, let's be frank. This jumps when you set it, unless you see, next time you have a watch that jumps when you set it, just give the crown a little bit of a wiggle to let it settle in, and it won't jump. Um, and that you're not being a snob, you had a bad experience and you're prejudiced against the brand, but that's okay because it's from personal experience, but you're not. You don't go to someone who has a Longines and go, "Oh, you shouldn't." That's I don't. What are you doing with that? That's not a good watch. You just weren't happy with an aspect of the Longines, and that's okay. Yams. I think the Polaris was one. Yeah, oh, yeah, I read that already. Sorry. Miranda. It's a character thing, I guess. Even when owning expensive pieces, in my case, vintage instruments. Ooh, nice. See, I always envy musicians. They say an audiophile, and that's my really cool. I have a quartz locked, old school Denon turntable from the '80s. I really love that thing. My amplifier, it's behind me, is modern, but my primary listening speakers are a pair of old Infinity reference standards from the '80s as well. But then again, I was an '80s boy. My first job out of the military, I was sales manager for Kenwood for the military region in Kaiserslautern. Eventually, I was monster cable sales manager for Germany. A lot of high end audio. My joke is everything I learned about power electronics came from arguing about Class A amplification. But, you know, instruments, I always envy musicians. So you can enjoy, appreciate, or be happy for someone about nice items in a different price class. Well, and the thing is, snobbishness is often linked to price, but it's not always linked to price. Julius Caesar, how's it going? Yams, I think he wore a JLC perpetual calendar. Yes, you did. Yes, there we go. See, after all the music, I got some confirmation there. Yeah, it was the Master Ultra Thin perpetual calendar. Miranda, but it goes both ways. Someone jealous putting down owners of more expensive things as snobs. Well, and I think I to be charitable, I think that's why Ristopia was getting aggressive because maybe they thought that I was trying to set up a straw man to attack, and attack people with more expensive watches as snobs. But that wouldn't apply to me because I mean my watch collection is worth over $100,000. I mean JLC Polaris, Silver Snoopy, Rolex Sub, Zenith El Primera Chronomaster, Omega annual calendar. I mean, Tag Heuer, uh, Carrera 2, Skeleton, Column Wheel, GMT. I mean, if anybody could be a snob about watches, I could be a snob about watches, but I'm just a collector who just likes to talk about watches. So to accuse me of setting up snobs as Richies who have better than me and I feel defensive, have fun. Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, when we talk about legacy, right? I was going to also point out I got a 10-second Elgin, perfect example of legacy. Elgin doesn't even exist anymore as a watch company. Talk about legacy. Legacy doesn't necessarily mean you're going to survive in the marketplace. You know, um, I got a Walkman flyback. Walkman was the company that got bought by the company that eventually became Breitling. Walkman was a gentleman in America who brought parts in and did all kinds, put together watches. And you'll see similar designs. But then back in those days, there was no in-house. I mean, there were in-house movements, but most watchmakers just bought movements, bought cases, bought faces, and it was how they combined them, how they expressed their design is what made their watches special. And this is such an old school flyback. You had to re-zero the subdials because they ran with the movement. So before you did any timing, you had to actually zero the subdials, which is why there's an extra pusher on that. When we think about uh, like Maurice Lacroix, frankly, I think that the Maurice Lacroix GMT is the best of the Icon series because at least it gives that big chunky bezel a reason to exist. Because in this, it got the GMT dial. But legacy, heritage, reputation. You've, I've talked about Zenith and their legacy and their reputation in many episodes. They couldn't sell in the United States because the American television company had the copyright to the name. A lot of Movado have from that era have Zenith movements and parts and such because they worked with Movado because they couldn't sell in the American marketplace. And they were actually bought by the American Zenith company when they went almost bankrupt designing the El Primero movement. Not only one of the first, because they tied with the Monaco and the Seiko Pogue, although the Seiko Pogue is arguably the only real tie because the Monaco is a modular movement. The Seiko Pogue is an integrated movement like the Zenith El Primero self-winding chrono. But the American Zenith company bought them, and Zenith, the watch company, literally hid the parts and tooling in an attic and walled it off for decades until the American company went out of business and they could buy their name back and start making watches again. You know, legacy has a lot of layers to it, and Zenith is a perfect example of a watch that a lot of people don't even know exist, and yet one of the greatest watch brands in our industry. Yams. Oh yeah, my bad. No worry. Chris, speaking of Zin, did I see their latest 903 release in titanium? I think it's cool. I think it's a nice piece. In fact, we need to go to the Zin facility again because I have a nice video of my visit. The mic cable was loose, so the sound isn't as good as I would like, but it was such good video I ran it. But I'm gonna try to finagle another visit and go back and do a fresh new video of their facility. The big thing that I really wanted to show in the video that's in the archive is they talk about the oil filled pieces and they do a live demo of oil filled in water versus non-oil filled in water, and that optical connection that the oil makes between the glass and the inside of there. Since there's no airspace, there's no optical gradient. You can see right inside the watch under every circumstance, underwater, in the air, at an extreme angle. The oil filled really does make a difference. So yeah, we got to go to the Zin facility again, my friend. Well, actually, I need to go again, and I need to drag you with me. I gotta wet my whistle. I've been so sometimes it gets into you. Mm. Whiskey check. I picked up a bottle of Dimple Golden Selection. Yes, it's blended, but it's not bad at all. It really is a decent drop, as they say. Tasty, as Lucille Ball said in her Vita Vita Vegemin skit. Mr. Donut, what about Patek? They have a huge legacy, but their reputation for selling and how they sell watches does not exceed its reputation, regardless of its legacy. Ooh, good thoughts. Good question, Mr. Donut. That's a great question because you're absolutely right. A company can have a great legacy and not have that great a reputation. For example, Rolex. In the case of Patek, there is a difference between snobbishness and just being so high and that you snooty, but then snooty is also kind of bad. But then again, if you go to a Patek shop, like I've been to Patek shops and they're pretty nice people. I've been to some places where they're really arrogant assholes, Richard Mill. Um, but most high-end shops, like I've been to some really high-end watch boutiques, and sometimes they're just glad someone walks in the door because a lot of people are intimidated to even walk in. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You can have a fantastic legacy and not have that great a reputation at the moment. Like Rolex has a bad reputation when it comes to availability and being able to buy their product, right? Yet people still want to buy their product. And same with Patek and all. And Unfortunately, they can get away with it because people want their products. I don't like that either, you know. Um, maybe, I don't know, general strike, but the problem is that companies like that don't just have us. And actually, in reality, that's an example of what I was saying about snootiness. Not really, they're not snobs. They're not saying that what we own isn't, they don't even think about, they don't even care what we own. They're saying what we're selling, we don't think you can buy. And that's a different thing, you know? Um, but it is an issue. And I'm glad you brought it up. What is everyone else's thoughts on that? Chris, Sherper has legacy in Enicar. Ah, see, that's one of the reasons I see. I was saying Chris was the better watch collector than I am, and he because Enicar has a great legacy. Enicar really does have a great legacy. It doesn't exist anymore as a brand, but some of that legacy does exist within Sherpa. Great point, Chris. Thank you. Julius Caesar, I enjoy wearing legacy and micro lesser known brands. Micro brands and lesser known brands are fantastic. In fact, that's one of the things I'm looking forward to when I go to Warsaw. I expect to see a lot of Eastern European micro brands and small brands because if you're a 50-year-old brand but you only make a few hundred, a few thousand watches a year, you be micro brand scale, but you have a legacy that goes deeper. I'm looking forward to that event. Um, but there are some, like I said, there are some great purchases out there, and I'm not the only one. Like I'll bring up the lunar pilot again. I'm not the only one who points out that the Bulova lunar pilot is a fantastic piece for legacy, quality, value, wearability, looks. I went ahead and I have the meteorite dial one, but even the meteorite dial one is only about $1,500. I mean, it was a limited edition, so they don't have them new, but you can get them new from a dealer, new used, never worn kind of previously owned, and you can pick them up. They're still on the gray market for about 1,500, um, which is shows you how good they are because to hold your value as a quartz watch in this marketplace is commendable. And they've held their value. They haven't increased a significant amount, but how many watches increase in value outside of Rolex and the Triumvirate? The fact that the Bulova Lunar Pilot meteorite has held its value is commendable for the brand, for the product. But then again, Citizen, who currently owns Bulova, they're taking their resources and their engineering skill and their manufacturing quality, and they're helping keep a legacy brand alive and vibrant. I mean, they reissued the Devil Diver. The reason for those who don't know, the reason that they call the Bulova Diver the Devil Diver is it says it's good for 666 feet. Well, and so that's why they called it the Devil Diver, because of the 666, which is actually inspired on the point of view of the designer, because it adds a little bit of interest to the piece and gives it the foundation for its nickname. Kalani says hi. Say hi back. Milt Garrison. Hey, Milt Garrison. Nice. I don't believe I've seen you before. Welcome to the show. Thanks for my content. Enjoy the conversation. Take care. Elusive man. Everyone is entitled to opinions. Exactly. I mean, I'm a person. They're a person. I'm not anything superior to any of them. We're all entitled to our opinions. I'm just a collector, as I've said many, many times. I'm just a collector talking on this channel. I feel this channel is full of collectors roughly around my caliber, no AP Rolex VCPP fan base, rather a culmination of everything. Well, that's the thing. I like the fact that we have an interesting mix of collectors in the following of the channel, because the fact that we can have these discussions validates why I even bothered to do this, because I love all of you. And the fact that we have this conversation at least once a week, and I post some pre-recorded, like I said, this week I posted the interview with the Hanhart co-CEO. You should check it out. But I live for these live streams, for the opportunity to have this exchange with all of you. Without you, I'm nothing. Um, Miranda at Julius Caesar, completely agree. It's what you like to wear and feel happy about. Exactly. An affordable watch can be more interesting than an expensive watch, and quite a few are. Yams, FP Journe watches are also pretty good. Perfect example of reputation over legacy. FP Journe is a relatively new company, but they have a phenomenal reputation for quality, craftsmanship, workmanship, interesting complications. You know, they're a top tier watch company. I think they need to rethink the triumvirate, frankly, and not just for FP Journe. There are a lot of other brands, and there are brands that are outside of Switzerland. It's sometimes people think that Swiss is all the be all and end all. Think about Glashütte. There are like 16 to 20 watch brands in Glashütte, and in my humble opinion, or maybe not so humble opinion, the best when we're talking about mainstream watches, right? Because there are some people that make 10 watches a year that are untouchable. But I mean, if we're talking about a commercial company selling commercial product, I think the best German watches are better than the best Swiss. And all you got to do is look at an Lange and Söhne movement, and look at a Patek movement. And Lange and Söhne have gold chatons with heat blued screws and incredible levels of detail that make the Patek look, frankly, second tier. Frankly, I mean, look it up yourself. And if you disagree with me, we can have that conversation too. I'm be more than happy to be corrected. But yeah, the best, in my humble opinion, the best German. And the thing is, there are some American, I wouldn't say boutique, I would say specialist watch brands that are world class when it comes to fit and finish and craftsmanship. You know, there are brands around the world that have that level. And frankly, only looking at Swiss watches is you're denying yourself a great opportunity to experience some really cool pieces out there. Elusive Man, I always say the Mont Blanc is a banger. I do. I really like. And I believe Chris was with me when I went and I bought the bracelet. Even has a little Mont Blanc logo on the top of the bracelet. I went ahead and I got the bracelet, and the bracelet is really banging on this watch. It came on a black alligator, and I don't think I'll ever put it back on. The metal bracelet suits it so well. Oh, Miranda at Julia. Sorry, didn't mean to imply that the micro brands are cheap. They're exclusive pieces too. Thinking of Moser, for example. Moser makes some really nice pieces. I really like the collaboration with Studio Underdog. That was a nice piece. I got to see that at Geneva Watch Days the year before last. Last year, it conflicted with travel. I'm really hoping to be able to make Geneva Watch Days this year. Definitely going to the Warsaw Autochronos. I'm going to be at the Warsaw event. That'll be fun. That'll be really fun. Watch it, Yams. Watches like RM and Jacob and Co. Yes, Jacob and Co. makes some really nice stuff. Jacob and Co. And another example of cool people with comically expensive watches. I went to the Jacob and Co. Boutique in Manhattan, and they were the nicest people I've ever dealt with. I shouldn't say the nicest; they were among the nicest people I've ever dealt with. Um, Jacob and Co. are a bit too much for, I don't know. People call it art. I understand that, but not my style. But see, that's perfectly fine. That's the beauty of the diversity in watch designs. I mean, some people really like Richard Mille. I'm obviously not a fan. But if that floats your boat, I'm not going to see you wearing a Richard Mille and go, oh my God, what an ugly piece of crap on your wrist. I'm going to say, hey, nice piece. I wouldn't necessarily, that's not, I wouldn't wear, I mean, well, actually, I would wear one if I got one at a really good price. But the thing is that there's no such thing as a really good price for $1 million watch. But I can respect what they've achieved, and they've also made one of the thinnest watches in the world. I can respect what they can achieve, what they have achieved, but just not my taste. Julius Caesar at Miranda, no worries. I understand what you were trying to say because micro brands are conventionally tied to the lower price range, but there are luxurious micro brands. Exactly. Mr. Donut, Dr. Strange. Oh, no, actually, I read that already. Oh, no, actually, someone else said that as well. Gian, although no one better convinced me otherwise about my take on Longines, it goes both ways, Alex. Yeah, that's okay. But that, like I said, you had a bad experience with a brand. That doesn't make you a snob about watches. It makes you prejudiced against the one brand, but that's different. Mr. Donut, Infinity used to make very good speakers. Not sure if they still make them. Harman was JBL Harman was bought by Samsung a few years ago. So yeah, no, nobody makes Infinity speakers anymore. I'm I'm so pleased that I have these. They have the original emit tweeters, the first ribbon tweeters. Fantastic design. They really are a great design speaker. The Infinity reference standards, classic pieces. They're never going to see speakers like that again. You might see better speakers with different technologies, but it's like a classic guitar. You're never going to be unhappy with it. Miranda, I have a friend who has high end audio like Krell. Ooh, Krell. Krell is some heavy duty stuff. I once saw an advertisement in an audio magazine, and it had a Krell amplifier and it had a jackhammer. And the Krell had more energy than the jackhammer. Krell's some good stuff. Krell monoblocks. Monoblocks means you have a separate amplifier for each channel. Cables for several thousand, etc. Well, like I said, I used to be monster cable sales manager for the German military market. I've seen $10,000 worth of cable in my hand. Uh, Monster makes good cable, but luxury is a diminishing return. A $50 cable is audibly, like we used to do AB comparisons all the time. I would have my people take Monster cable back in the day, Interlink 500, which was an RCA cable, and I would say, hey, you wear it around your neck, and when you sold an amp, because I would pay the various sales reps, so the Nakamichi rep, and I would say, hey, you sell that deck, you say, hey, let's go into the big room, let's hook up this with the cable that's in the box, which is just some piece of crap cable that is more of a convenience because they know that you're going to buy another cable, but they put a piece of RCA cable in the box so you at least can hook it up when you first buy it. And some people still use them out of the box, which no, you don't want that cable because that's the cheapest thing they can find. Um, and you could audibly hear the difference between a piece of cheap cable and a piece of good cable. And if you have good equipment, you can hear the difference between a piece of good cable and a piece of very good cable. But once you start getting into the really high end, it gets harder and harder to hear the difference. But you can hear the difference between crap and good. Um, he's not a snob, but an audio enthusiast. I see most watch collectors the same way. Well, a true audio enthusiast would go into someone's house and they may have a Yamaha connected to a pair of Sony speakers, connected to a Audio Technica turntable. And they would go, nice setup. The analogy I like is if you have a clean Volkswagen Beetle and you go to a car show, the guy owning the Lamborghini will see that clean Volkswagen and go, nice Beetle. Because if they're an auto enthusiast, again, it goes back to the whole argument I was saying before about the more you know, the less you can be a snob. Because that auto enthusiast will see that clean Beetle and recognize what it is. You know what I mean? Um, Mr. Donut, before AP Royal Oak, there was the 69 Zenith Defy, right? But somehow the Royal Oak gets more praise than Zenith. And that's more because of the international distribution. Don't forget, at that time, Zenith couldn't sell in the United States because of the television company. So Zenith was stuck making great watches, but they could only sell in Europe and Asia. They couldn't sell in the biggest market for that kind of product back in that day, the United States. They couldn't sell in the United States for love or money, which is one of the reasons Movado got so much traction because there was a lot of Zenith stuff in the Movados back then because they couldn't sell. They couldn't sell in the United States because of the television company. Chris, sure, let's check out Zen together. He's thumbs upping it, so we're going to have a day. Elusive Man, only experiences of snobbery are at Rolex ADs. Omega boutiques have been awesome. Yeah, I do love my Omegas. Chris and I were at the Omega dealer when I got the metal bracelet for my Silver Snoopy because the Silver Snoopy comes on a sailcloth, but I went ahead and I bought the factory, and now it's got the one click quick adjust. One click. They could have put two clicks, maybe three. Ooh. But yeah, the Omega people were very nice, and they even gave me a red carry case to go, to go with. Oh, Chris, have a good one. He's bailing. Lomo Chrono. Hey, nice to see you on the show. Why I hate Jacob? No, I don't hate Jacob and Co. I was at their shop. They have some of the nicest people. I'm not thrilled with Richard Mill. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna crap on them, but I'm just not happy with them. But I love Jacob and Co.'s people. Maybe you're asking the other person who was talking about Jacob and Co. But no, I had a great experience in their Manhattan boutique. Really nice people, and I'm the Godfather watch isn't my cup of tea completely, but I can respect the work in it, and the Richard Mill's not my cup of tea, and I can respect the work in it, but their people aren't as nice, or at least their people at the Manhattan boutique weren't as nice. Um, pardon me. Yams. I mean, it's too much for me. I respect the effort put on that piece of art, and it also looks beautiful, but I'm kind of a minimalistic person. Well, there's some really nice watches that are minimalist. You should go out and check. I mean, an Omega Deville, some really nice clean pieces with the satin dial or linen dial, the cloth pattern dial. Beautiful watch, blue. I think there's one at my local dealer that's been sitting there forever. Maybe I'll try to Presbyterian them down on it. Um, IWC is great bang for the buck. They are. My joke is IWC is what you wear when you can afford a Rolex, but you don't want people to think you're a Rolex person. Like I really, really, really like my IWC Saint-Exupéry, and it's a GMT. So I often travel with this piece. I really like it, and since my name is Alex, I like that it's got an A for Antoine, but I know it's for Antoine, but I can pretend it's for Alex. But this is an awesome watch. It really is a nice watch. Oops. I do like my Sennheiser. But yeah, IWC makes some great watches. Panksco, hey, I'm new in the watch world, looking to expand. Getting a second uh, option watch of the same line used in half price is a good choice, or should I aim for one that I like the most but double money? Well, if you like them both, get the less expensive watch now and save up for the other. I know that's the easy answer, but yeah, as long as you're not settling, because if you buy a watch to settle, you'll never be happy and you'll wind up selling it anyway. But if you genuinely like both watches, get the cheaper now and save up for the more expensive one. Michael Eldridge. Hey, how's it going, Michael? I think I said hi earlier. But doesn't hurt to say hi twice. Nomos makes some great looking watches for the money. Yeah, I just sold my Neomatic 42. I almost miss it. It's such a great piece. Nomo, but then again, German Glashütte. There's nothing out of Glashütte that's crap. They really make some great watches, and Nomos makes some great sports watches with excellent movements in them. Really nice watches. I can't say anything. And Nomos is the only waterproof watch that if you unscrew the crown, it's got a red warning on the barrel. Why doesn't anybody else do it? Maybe someone else does. If they do, let me know. Yams, me too. I respect the watches, just not me. Exactly. And I'm going to go through the comments and close out because we're at the top of the hour, but I never leave before reading all the comments. Um, Style music. Hey, nice to have you here. Had some sweet Vienna acoustics. They were once the demo speakers at Best Buy in the 2000s. Yeah, those are nice speakers, and I hope you enjoy them. As I've always said, audiophiles are frustrated musicians. We want to make good music. Um, Michael Eldridge, what's my desert island watch? One watch for the rest of my life. Ouch. That's a hard one. One watch for the rest of my life. Well, see, desert island, I just have to need to know the time of day, I guess. I don't need to know what day it is unless it's a you okay, desert island watch, if you're being bloody minded, you'd want a perpetual calendar so you can keep track of the time and the dates and the years and everything. But if it was one watch, wow. Out of my entire collection, if I was going to go with a one watch, it would be a tie, and they would be both Omegas. I would either have the Globemaster annual calendar because it's such a gorgeous, clean, beautiful piece, and it's an annual calendar, so at least I don't have to worry about 30 days, have September, April, June, and November. So that would give me a little bit of that perpetual calendar vibe on the desert island, or my Silver Snoopy. I mean, it's a time only, but it's just such an awesomely cool watch, and it's just nobody, nobody in the industry has that kind of. I mean, unless you're talking about an incredibly cool, complicated back like a Patek or a Lange and Söhne movement, but as far as just backs that are not just looking at the movement, you got the rotating Earth and the Moon. That is an awesome, awesome watch back. So I would probably say the Silver Snoopy would be my one watch, or the Globemaster, because the Globemaster has what I was saying. Unless it's a gorgeous mechanical back, and I like to have a medallion to cover the rotor hub. And the medallion is an observatory with all the stars to designate the times it's won the observatory trials. So yeah. So my one watch would be an Omega. Interesting. Thank you for bringing that to the front of my mind. I see you're a Stephen King fan, says Michael. I live here in Maine. Hey, kick ass. Fantastic chat. Oh my, read my book, Cyberchild. You'd like it too. I just realized that it's washed out in the light. It's got a shiny cover. I guess I should put like a matte spray glaze on it or something to make it more visible. Panksco, it's a solid answer. Thanks a lot. Hey, my pleasure. OG Knight Rider. I recently bought a Zinn U15. Beautiful watch. No, Zinn's from Frankfurt. Mr. Donut, what about the brand Union from Glashütte? They make supposedly great watches, very reasonably priced. I had a conversation with somebody about that lately. I think Union Glashütte is the Longines of Glashütte. They make great watches, not always their movements, but well thought out, well designed, nicely assembled. They put a lot of QC into it, so you can always trust a Union. They're great watches. They really are. One watch for the rest of my life will be the Pelagos FXD. Gian, that's a good watch choice. Mr. Donut, if you're a lover of Snoopy and love art, look into Carl Stryker. I will. So, everybody, we're at the top of the hour. The fact that we're rocking and rolling is good because that means we have stuff to talk about next week. So, until next week, uh, and oh, don't forget to check out the pre-recorded stuff that I put in the between. But please check out that. But until next week in the next live stream, which I'm looking forward to seeing you all on, have a great week, and most especially, have a fantastic evening.